Okay, good morning again, everyone. This is Nick Petro with the National Weather Service in Raleigh, and we've got here the 11:30 Friday update to our winter storm briefing for Central North Carolina. This briefing covers the period today, the rest of today through Saturday. So, first thing right off the bat, want to address the changes since the slides that we sent out at 6:30 this morning. One thing that has been quite obvious to us is the warm air aloft, the warm air above the ground has moved in pretty quickly. And what that has done, it has changed the precipitation type from snow, which we were expecting quite a bit of snow. Yesterday when we did this briefing, we were talking about, possibly a foot of snow for the Triad region and areas north of I-85. That is no longer going to be the case. Those snowfall forecast amounts have been cut way back because the warm air has come in aloft, and what that has done is changed it to more of a sleet and freezing rain precipitation type, even all the way up to the border. There's still a few places that are reporting light snow closer to the border, to the Virginia border, but almost all of our coverage area, almost all of central North Carolina, has switched over to sleet and freezing rain. However, not to diminish the impacts, because this is still extremely dangerous situation due to the potential icing accumulations. So the overall threat has not lessened. Yesterday evening before going to bed, most folks may have seen a briefing that said, well, maybe not so much icing if there's more sleet. Well, it turns out that the freezing rain has indeed been somewhat dominant for many locations. So again, that icing threat is back on the table again in terms of impacts for accumulating on trees and power lines and such. So anyway, we'll touch on that here in just a minute. But I want to also remind folks to don't forget about the black ice tonight across places that aren't getting a whole lot of freezing rain right now. And there's going to be some places that turn to rain. There's no doubt about that. There's going to be a few places where it warms up above freezing and they turn to rain. And I'll show you that in an upcoming slide. But I want to just point out that temperatures are going to fall back below freezing across all of central North Carolina. So if you get into the rain later today, you're not out of the woods, because tonight that may refreeze and there may be some black ice issues. So don't forget about that. This is a dangerous storm, no doubt. Obviously, life-threatening storm. There's already been numerous accidents and a couple fatalities associated with this event. We want to just remind folks that the hardest hit areas with the most ice should prepare for downed trees and power lines, perhaps some spots having prolonged power outages, roads becoming, ice covered to the point where they become impassable perhaps. The gusty winds up to 30 miles an hour will also increase the likelihood of falling branches and power lines and such. And remember that falling trees can kill people when they land on homes and cars. So again, just remind folks that if you start to hear the sound of trees falling around your property, you need to get into the middle of your home or building on the lowest floor interior, kind of like if you were seeking shelter for a tornado. And then of course always use extreme caution. Remind folks that if you're using a generator, if your power goes out, fortunately, we haven't had too many reports of power outages just yet, but later this evening, when the heavier batches of freezing rain come in, we more than likely are going to start to see more power outage reports. So again, don't forget people, or don't forget to remind people that those devices need to be properly ventilated, that is the generators, and placed far enough away from your home to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And then again, obviously, we just want to remind folks to just stay home if you can, or stay off the roads. All right, so winter watches, warnings, and advisories haven't really changed since the 6:30 update. Large portion of central North Carolina under warnings, and places basically across the coastal plain under advisories due to the freezing rain and sleet accumulation. Here is our latest timing and precipitation type maps here. And obviously, we've had to adjust this because of the less snow and more sleet and freezing rain. Starting in the upper left, you can see that's the most recent live radar. I grabbed that just a few minutes ago, and really the only place we're still getting reports of snow is up closer to the Virginia border. Almost everywhere else in central North Carolina, it's a combination of sleet and or freezing rain. So it's below freezing temperatures across all of central North Carolina. Now by 1 p.m., actually we might see a little bit of a break, particularly for the Triangle area to the south and east for a brief time, maybe an hour or two or so. right around here midday. But if we look to our west, there is additional heavy precipitation developing and moving toward us. We expect some moderate freezing rain to move back into portions of central North Carolina during the early afternoon. That batch will move across our area. You can see at 4 p.m. What you saw across basically the central and western Piedmont at 1 p.m. will have moved into the eastern Piedmont and coastal plain by 4 p.m. And you can see where we think that rain versus freezing rain line is going to be. Basically right up along the I-95 corridor. And then by 7 p.m., that rain versus freezing line rain will basically begin to tilt a little bit. So, basically from Rocky Mount south should be above freezing along I-95 north of Rocky Mount and basically west of, let's say, just pretty much along or just east of the US 1 corridor. That's sort of where we think the freezing, no freezing, or freezing above freezing line is going to be. So this evening, there is some suggestion among some of our higher resolution models that just run, a couple hours out into the future. Some of those better models are suggesting that a batch of fairly heavy precipitation rates are going to move across central North Carolina during the mid-evening. So again, folks, places that have not warmed up above freezing is going to see the risk for about an hour or two of really heavy rainfall rates, and with temperatures below freezing, there could be a quick quarter to maybe half-inch of ice falling and accumulating in some spots this evening. So while it won't be precipitating all day today where you're located, there will be off and on periods of moderate to heavy freezing rain at times. So conditions can improve for an hour or two and then quickly go right back downhill again. So if it lessens up where you're at, don't think you're out of the woods for the rest of the day. There could be additional batches coming in throughout the duration of the day. Overnight tonight, we should finally begin to see the heaviest stuff basically wind down, and we'll just be left with some freezing drizzle during the overnight hours. Now, looking ahead to Saturday, the models have really backed off on any kind of snow accumulation for the daytime Saturday. So really, at most, we'll just see maybe some light snow showers and flurries area-wide, minimal additional accumulations. That should all be ending pretty quickly from west to east during the evening hours. So not a whole lot of opportunity for thawing and melting for places that get heavy freezing rain and ice accumulation tonight or this evening and afternoon, but again, not a whole lot of snow with that. All right, and as it comes to accumulation amounts, we just updated this map. This is what we think the most likely snow and sleet accumulations are going to be by the end of the day. Now, clearly, north of I-85, those numbers have been trimmed back big time, because again, that transition to sleet and freezing rain has already occurred. So when you see those 3 to 4 inch amounts, a lot of that is what has already fallen. We've gotten a lot of reports of 3.5 inch snowfall amounts, as you get up closer to the Virginia border. So what this map reflects is the snow that has largely already fallen. As you look further to the south, we see that the lighter shades of gray, that represents whatever snow had already fallen and is over, plus additional sleet that we may get through the duration or rest of the afternoon. Clearly, sleet can accumulate. Obviously, it doesn't accumulate like snow, but certainly there could be a coating of sleet in spots that see prolonged period of sleet. So that's what we're dealing with now in terms of accumulations. Now, as we look at the ice accumulation from freezing rain, we still think that there's going to be a fairly wide swath of 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of ice accumulations across a good portion of central North Carolina, basically from along the I-85 corridor over to the US 1 corridor. Now, keep in mind that could extend, 1/4 inch ice amounts could extend as far east as I-95. We're just going to have to keep an eye on that rain line, on the line where the temperatures go above freezing. We're going to be keeping close watch on that. Obviously, that'll play into final amounts for even places as far east as I-95. Keep in mind, values across central North Carolina may need to be increased, again, especially if, let me back up here, especially if this band right here that I'm showing at 7 p.m., that moves east through 10 p.m., especially if this comes across, if this materializes, then there's going to be some spots that locally may see, freezing rain amounts up to 3/4 of an inch. So that batch of rain has not yet developed. This is what the models are anticipating. So that's not a guarantee we're going to get that, but just know that that is possible. So those values may need to be increased for snow and for ice totals if we do see that band of rain developing to our west. All right, so wrapping it all up as it turns, as it relates to impacts, I kind of simplified this a little bit because now that we're into the heart of the event here, west of this dashed line, I think that's going to be the area that's going to have the greatest impacts in terms of tree damage, maybe power outages, maybe prolonged travel impacts due to, again, ice accumulations. Again, not that we're seeing a lot of power outages right now, but as the day progresses and freezing rain continues to accumulate, and if that batch of heavy freezing rain moves across this evening, then I think you're going to see the numbers of tree damage reports and power outages increase. So anyway, east of that dashed line, there's still a lot of question as to how far and how quickly west the rain line moves. Regardless, there's already enough freezing rain. We've already heard about all the wrecks on I-95. Impacts are happening right now. So we don't want to, obviously there's big time impacts going on right now, especially as regard to travel, and travel should be avoided in this area today. And for places that do change to rain, this evening, we're talking the southern portions of the coastal plain. We're talking basically the central and southern portions of the coastal plain, primarily along and east of I-95. These locations may go to just plain rain later today, this evening. Keep in mind, though, temperatures even there will fall back below freezing overnight tonight. So black ice is expected later tonight and Saturday morning, even in places where it turned to rain this afternoon and evening. So impacts, again, continue to be expected for this event through Saturday. A lot of folks are asking questions about wind and temperatures and what's the trends for temperatures and winds in my area. Again, I just want to bring your attention to this web page right here because I think, it could vary, depending on where you're at. So just want to remind folks that if you click that link and then you pick your location or you enter your latitude and longitude in this box here, I'll just pick Raleigh where we're located here, and this shows you the hour-by-hour trend of not only temperature, which is the red line here, but also wind. And clearly this shows that we are expecting some gusty winds. Basically from this afternoon right through this evening, you could see there gusts as high as 30 miles an hour are expected. So clearly if we start to get those heavy accumulations of ice, I'm talking the half-inch, three-quarter inch ice accumulation on trees and power lines, combine that with gusts to 30 miles an hour, we could see conditions rapidly deteriorate as it relates to power outages and fallen trees and such. Not a whole lot of relief for melting. Look at that temperature line. At least through the next 2 days, temperatures really not warming up much above freezing, if at all. Generally staying at or below freezing right for the next 2 days. So anyway, feel free to click that link on the slides. I'll be emailing these slides out to everyone, and then you can get the specifics in terms of wind and temperatures for your particular area. So I apologize for that background noise there. Anyway, just also want to remind folks to check out our neighboring offices if you're outside of Central North Carolina. And as always, we will be emailing these slides out, and we will be posting this to YouTube. So for folks who didn't have a chance to join us here on this webinar, you can check out our social media pages. Be sure to check out our social media pages anyway, and feel free to share all the content there to help us get the word out about how people can stay safe and keep themselves safe during this situation.